Pepperoni made from mushrooms. The first thing that we gotta do is I have 3 king oyster mushrooms. I don't know if you're gonna be able to make this out of any other type of mushroom unless it's a mushroom that has a very long stem. All we're gonna do is just chop off the caps, save those caps, use them in whatever you want, saute them up. You have some pretty cool cappy kind of mushrooms. We're just not using them for this pepperoni. Now all we have to do is make our mushroom marinade. We wanna make these the night before so that way they can soak overnight, soak up all of those seasonings, soak up that juice, gets kind of like pinkish red, real light. These aren't gonna be like super red pepperoni, but it's gonna get pretty close once we're done. First thing that we need to do is pull out my book. This isn't an ad for the book, it's just that's where the recipe is. My book, Making Vegan Meat, the Plant-Based Food Science Cookbook, has a recipe for starch pepperoni. The starch pepperoni is so good. If you haven't tried it yet, I'll leave a link for the video where you can get the book and try it out, but it's like one of my favorite plant-based pepperonis. So I wanna use the flavor of that to make this mushroom. Now it's gonna be a very similar recipe because we are gonna be using some starch, but the mushroom, I think, is just gonna make it super meaty. So we're gonna start with 1 tablespoon of tapioca starch, 1 tablespoon mushroom seasoning. If you don't know what this is, literally watch almost any one of my other videos. This stuff's incredible. 1.5 teaspoons smoked paprika. And now we're just gonna do a 1/2 teaspoon of anise and a full teaspoon of fennel in a mortar and pestle, or a pestle and mortar. We're only doing this because in normal pepperoni, you might have like those full seeds inside the pepperoni, but because this is gonna be this mushroom pepperoni, those seeds, they're just not gonna penetrate. So we just wanna make them smaller so that way, they can kind of work themselves into the mushroom. Now we just need a few shakes of garlic powder, pinch of chili powder, and then a pinch of salt. We're gonna do 2 teaspoons of beetroot powder. Now, this is your dry ingredients. I'm just gonna add some wet ingredients before we mix this all up. We're just gonna do just a little squeeze of agave. It's just gonna add some sweetness, some roundness to the pepperoni. And we're just gonna do about a teaspoon of soy sauce and a few drops of liquid smoke just to amp up that smokiness, give it a little bit more of that cured meat kind of taste. And then all we're gonna do is just add about 1.5 cups of cold water and mix this up. And you really should almost immediately start smelling that pepperoni smell. I mean, it's just awesome. It smells like pepperoni. It's kind of like a beet pepperoni, but it still smells like pepperoni. So for the next step, I am gonna use like a meat flavor injector, just like one of these like syringes. Now I will say, when I did the test of this, it was a mess. It was a disaster because when you start spraying this flavor into the mushroom's pores open up and these things they literally just squirt all over the place. So the way that I'm gonna do it is I'm going to put the mushrooms in a bag. I'm gonna be using a vacuum sealer. So this is just my vacuum sealer bag. You don't have to do a vacuum sealer, but I think this is just gonna make it easier to inject these mushrooms without getting stuff all over the place. And then we're just gonna do 5 or 6 big injection points and only on the long side of the mushroom. Even still in the bag, I am still making a mess and squirting this broth all over the place. But I really feel like it's important and it's gonna really make a big difference in the end as far as making sure these mushrooms are flavored. It's also part of my texture plan as well. Okay, so these look great. All I'm gonna do is just pour the rest of this marinade over the top. We need to let this sit at least overnight. That's gonna be your best bet to really get this pepperoni flavor infused into these mushrooms. Okay, so we got the marinade in the mushrooms. They are looking good. They're already kind of turning a little pink. That's awesome. We've made it a complete disaster. I'll leave that footage here. Perfect. So now all we're gonna do is just throw these into a vacuum sealer. If you don't have a vacuum sealer, throw them into a bag, seal them up, get them really nice and compressed down so that way this marinade can actually penetrate the mushrooms and really kind of fill them up with all that nice seasoning and color. Let's throw these in the fridge overnight, then tomorrow we'll come back and add some fat and turn these into pepperoni. So we got the pepperoni in the freezer, so it's curing and aging a little bit. So let's talk about aging. I'm about to be 41 in a few weeks, and I wanna make sure that my skin looks good, and that's why I use today's sponsor. Geology is the fastest growing men's skincare brand, and that's for a reason. Cracked said that Geology makes men's skincare less scary, and they are right. I didn't know the first thing about skincare, and Geology hooked me up. All you do is head over their site, Take their quiz and Geology comes up with a personalized regimen just for you. I got regimen number 1, which just means that I wash my face with the daily face wash first thing in the morning and then use the day cream, which has a UV protectant. Then I wash my face at night again, use an under eye cream and the night cream, which prevents wrinkles and keeps your skin smooth and soft. And I am loving the results. I mean, I'm saying it just, look at me. I'm feeling like Benjamin Button here. Like I literally feel like I'm de-aging. And really, it's because it's only a few minutes in the morning and a few minutes in the evening. So gang, click the link in the description below, head over to Geology and take the quiz. You get up to 40% off when purchasing your first personalized trial set. And I know a lot of you out there are just like me and you've been using Geology for a while, so make sure you head over to the website and upgrade your regimen. You might need a change. The plans are starting at just $20. You can save up to 40% off on your first personalized trial set. Geology, thanks for making me look young. Thank you for sponsoring today's video. Okay, so the next day, our pepperoni is looking really good. I'm still wearing the same black t-shirt. Let's go ahead and make our fat for this. All we're gonna do is start with about 1/2 of a cup of water. We're gonna use about 1/2 of a teaspoon of aquafaba powder into the water. And then for this to firm up a little bit more, we're gonna use a teaspoon of kappa carrageenan. Now, all we're gonna do is just throw a lid on this and get this started on low. We have 1/2 of a cup of olive oil. I am going to slowly drizzle the olive oil into the blender, and you have to drizzle it very slow, like a little tiny drip at a time, otherwise it will not emulsify, it will separate. This is going to take longer than you expect. If you're pouring it and it feels like it's taking forever, you're doing it right. Okay, so we have our overnight mushrooms. So excited to see how these came out. I think they're gonna be, I can see already. They're nice and red. Ugh, perfect, just perfect. And it smells like pepperoni. It smells like pepperoni. So at this point, all I'm gonna do is just take my mushroom pepperoni and we are going to squeeze in some of this fat mixture into the existing holes that we already made. We don't want to add any more. We're just going to go back down into the hole and squeeze in some fat until it starts to overflow a little bit. These are completely full. I got them kind of covered on the top. I'm also kind of setting them up because I'm hoping that that fat settles down in there. We want to make sure that you have nice consistent fat lines. I think that's going to be pretty important for this. All I'm going to do is just cover it up with a little bit of plastic wrap. We're just going to kind of tightly wrap these up and then throw them in the freezer. We want them to be fairly frozen solid, as frozen as we can get them. So we'll see you back in a little bit once they're frozen. Okay, so the mushrooms are pretty much frozen through. Now we're gonna do a little starch slurry. I just kind of added this on last minute. This wasn't in my original concept or idea, but I just kind of, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I think doing this is gonna add to the realism and the flavor. So we're just gonna do a teaspoon of wheat starch. If you can't find wheat starch, you can use like a tapioca starch. You can use just about any other starch. I'd probably stay away from cornstarch. I just don't think it's gonna come out as good. It has a different properties. Then we're just gonna throw in just a little bit more. It's probably, like 1/2 of a teaspoon more of the smoked paprika. Just another same thing, 1/2 teaspoon of some fennel. This is gonna give it the appearance, more the appearance of pepperoni. Toss in just another, small 1/4 teaspoon of anise, and a few shakes of oregano. Now I'm just gonna add about a teaspoon of red wine vinegar. Let's just whisk these together with that red wine vinegar. We're gonna have little clumps, and then we're just gonna kind of drizzle in a little bit of water to make a slurry. It moves quick, so it probably needs less water than you think. Okay, so let's just make a real quick gluten and paprika mixture. All we're gonna do is just slice our mushrooms really thin, dip them into our starch mixture, into our gluten mixture, throw them into the steamer, allow them to steam for about 10-15 minutes until it seems solid, pull them out. Now I've already made my dough and I just made my sauce. Look at this sauce. This is how you make a pizza sauce. Now all we have to do is just make our pizza. I'm just gonna throw a little bit of flour on the cutting board, spread the dough out. This is about a 12-inch pizza. Top it with some sauce, top it with some Miyoko's vegan mozzarella. It's my favorite. a little bit of pepperoni, and now let's throw it into our wood-fired Gosney Dome pizza oven. I love this pizza oven. If you don't have a wood-fired oven, go ahead and just throw it into your kitchen oven turned all the way up on the top rack for just a few minutes until it's brown and rised. Pull this pizza out. You have yourself some mushroom pepperoni. Look at this pepperoni pizza.
It looks awesome. I can't wait to try it.
Do you know what the pepperoni's made out of? I mean, I kind of told you, so.
No, tell me again.
It's mushroom. It's king oyster mushroom.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
King oyster mushroom, pepperoni. Let's get going.
It looks really good. I can't wait.
I think it's gonna be awesome.
I'm gonna take this piece with 2 pepperonis on it.
So it should be, I'm gonna give you a little heads up.
Okay.
The mushroom should taste like mushroom.
Okay. With
the consistency of mushroom, but with the noise of Walker walking around in the background, because of course the second that we start, Walker's gonna get up.
All right, cheers. Right away, like I took a whole bite, and the first like taste in my mouth was a pepperoni taste.
Yep, me too.
And it tastes like a pepperoni pizza. I mean, it tastes awesome.
Me too.
So I didn't really get a whole lot of like mushroom taste, honestly.
Me either.
Yeah.
It actually came out better than I anticipated. I think the texture's still there. You're not getting that bitey chew that I wanted for pepperoni. The flavor, like if you were to throw this on, it's pepperoni.
The whole pizza is really, really good and really tasty.
Yep. Biting into that, I am tasting pepperoni. So there we go. That's it.
Yeah, this is awesome.
This is our dinner.